Are you happy now that you've switched to my sister? Of course. Anyone can see that Lucy is more attractive than you. Can't you even understand that? It was definitely the right decision to dump an old hag like you. As Tom uttered these words, my sister chuckled quietly. Well, I'm glad you think so. I've been thinking it's good to be away from you too. Thanks for breaking up. What? My name is Sophia. I'm a 40-year-old office worker. Until very recently, I had a boyfriend. His name is Tom, 2 years younger than me, and we met at a mixer party. I wasn't planning on attending the mixer, but my colleagues convinced me to go, just to make up the numbers. I had doubts about being the only middle-aged woman there, but all the men were 35 or older, and many were close to my age. I thought I could have a good time, and I had a lively conversation with all the men at the party. Amidst all this, it was Tom who was keenly interested in me. Tom and I had similar tastes, such as liking the same artist, smoking the same brand of cigarettes, and enjoying the same food. We clicked well, and Tom started inviting me out on dates and for meals. After that, we started dating and our relationship progressed smoothly. Sophia, your cooking is delicious. Thanks. Maybe it's because I've lived alone for so long, and I used to cook a lot as a substitute mother for my younger brother and sister. Oh, you have a sister too. I'll have to say hello to her sometime. At that time, I didn't think much of it, but now I feel that him mentioning only my sister, not my brother, hinted at his flirtatious character. We started dating about 1.5 years ago, and even then he showed signs of being emotionally abusive. Sophia, is dinner ready yet? Just a little longer. I'm making it now. What? I'm starving here. You're really inefficient. Despite us both working, he didn't do any household chores. Although he often came home earlier than me, he would just laze around on the sofa watching TV. What, stew again? Give me something hearty or fried. Yeah, make croquettes. Well, if I start making croquettes now, dinner will be very late. Huh? It's easy to make those things. You're really bad at this. Just go to the grocery store and buy some. Tom would boss me around and give orders like this. He also mocked my appearance. You're really ugly. Whenever he saw a beautiful female celebrity on TV, he would compare them to me and hurl abusive words. He would also call me an old hag, which was quite ironic coming from him, who was only 2 years younger. Whenever he got irritated or things didn't go his way, he would insult me to keep his mood up. However, he was very gentle at other times, saying things like, I love you, Sophia, or I feel calm when I'm with you. So I thought that the occasional insults were just a sign of him showing his true feelings because he loved me. Looking back now, it was a shockingly foolish interpretation. I came to realize the old saying, love is blind, is indeed true. After we had been dating for about 1 year, he started coming home late. I have to work overtime today, so I don't need dinner. He would just send that message and call it a day. And every time he came home, he was drunk. When I mentioned that he smells of alcohol, Tom gets huffy and claims he only had a drink with his colleagues after work. But it's clear to me that he's had more than just one drink. His face is red, after all. But if I push him any further, he'll yell back tenfold, so I don't have any choice but to stay quiet. However, I couldn't help but sigh when I found business cards from strip clubs and brothels in his suit pocket. Well, if he's stressed out from work, I guess he needs some sort of outlet. But even though he's dating me, he still does these things. He's called me an old hag and an ugly duckling before, but I believed he still loved me as a woman. However, these days, he hasn't been doing that sort of thing. He's been satisfying his desires elsewhere. I've been wondering if we can even still call this dating. But amidst all this, Tom did something surprising. Today, it's on me. Let's go get some sushi. Huh? What's the occasion? Nothing much. Just a token of my daily gratitude, I guess. I found his shy response endearing, and I was excited to go eat sushi. It wasn't high-end sushi, but it was delicious, as it's been a while since I last ate sushi. When we got home from enjoying our sushi, Tom said, I've got some special beer at home for us to enjoy tonight. Oh, thank you. I was surprised since he hadn't done anything like this in a while. It wasn't a special day or either of our birthdays, so I couldn't help but wonder if there was a catch. Then, Tom bashfully dropped a bombshell. Well, I haven't prepared a ring yet, but how about getting married? Huh? It was an unexpected proposal. I was so taken aback that I couldn't respond immediately. As I sat there wide-eyed and stunned, Tom asked me, "Is it no good?" I was honest about how I felt. "I'm sorry. It was so sudden. I'm shocked." I see. I was happy, but I had to voice my concerns. I'm thrilled you proposed, but you've said so many cruel things to me, right? And it seems like you go frequently to those nightclubs. Why did you propose to me despite all that? When I asked, Tom responded while looking me in the eyes. I guess it's because if I'm going to get married, I want it to be with you, Sophia. I've said terrible things to you, and I'm truly sorry. I've taken your kindness for granted. I promise I won't say anything to hurt you anymore. So I want you to marry me. Being told that so directly, I couldn't help but be swayed. I accepted his proposal right then. I was suddenly so happy at the thought of getting married. I couldn't stop grinning. But even then, our old patterns didn't change. Hey, old lady, get me a beer, will ya? Hey, didn't we agree you wouldn't call me old lady? Ugh, you're such a nag. Sophia, old lady, both are more or less the same 6-ish letters. It's not the same at all. You're always nitpicking. It's annoying. That's because you're breaking your promise. You promised me when you proposed. If this is how it's going to be, I can't bear it. Ugh, then you shouldn't have accepted so easily. Saying that, Tom, irritated, took his beer and secluded himself in his room. Another day he shouted, "Don't get cocky, you old ugly hag. Any young woman is way better than an old hag like you." When he started talking like this, I too didn't hold back, replying, "If that's the case, why don't you find a young woman and move on? But you're settling for me because no young woman would look at you now that you're an old man, aren't you?" When I teased him like this, he would get furious, his face turning beet red. "Don't you have any sense of gratitude or awareness that you've been chosen? If that's how you want to choose, let's annul our marriage." "All right, let's call off the marriage." Saying so, Tom once again retreated to his room with a beer in hand. Looking back, he seemed to be drinking excessively around this time. Maybe his heavy drinking was what made him short-tempered and his words harsh. Still, the next morning he would apologize. "Sorry, it was my fault. I only have you, Sophia. Sorry for being such a lousy boyfriend, but I really want to marry you." When he said these sincere words, I, in the end, would always forgive him. A few months passed since he somewhat proposed, and finally we started preparing for the marriage. First up, meeting each other's parents. It was my first time meeting his parents, but they were very kind and approved of our marriage. Now it was his turn to meet my parents. "Ah, welcome, Tom." "Lucy, long time no see." My sister, who was living at home, greeted us. Tom had visited my home a few times and had met not only my mother, but also my brother and sister. It was his first time meeting my father, but my father is not scary, so he interacted with Tom normally. "So Tom and my sister are getting married. I never thought she would beat me to it." "Right? You're already in your late 20s. Time flies." "Hey, Mom, stop teasing me about that." My sister puffed up in anger while my mom laughed maliciously. In fact, my sister and I have quite an age gap. She is currently 28. That means there's a 12-year gap between me, who just turned 40, and her. Even though she's in her late 20s, my sister has a beautiful face, so she looks more like she's in her early 20s. My family approved of the marriage, and Tom and I steadily prepared for our wedding. But then, out of nowhere, he suggested we break up. I didn't understand why. Why? We're about to meet both families. We don't have to cancel the family meetings." "What do you mean?" Then the doorbell of our house rang. Wondering who it could be at such a time, it turned out to be my sister. "Lucy, sorry, I'm a bit busy right now." "No problem. I'm involved too." "Huh?" With that, my sister strode into our house. When I followed her, Lucy called out, "Tom!" and to my surprise, threw her arms around him. "Oh, you sure took your time, didn't you?" He chuckled. "I was picking out some cute lingerie for you, Tom, and that made me late," Lucy laughed. Really? Can't wait, Tom said, patting Lucy's bottom. What's going on? I asked. Huh? Can't you see? This is what's happening, Tom replied, laughing and pulling Lucy closer to his side. I'm sorry, sis. I fell in love with Tom, and he fell for me too. So I'm going to be the one marrying him, Lucy announced, followed by a guffaw. Unbelievably, just before our wedding, Tom switched from me to Lucy, as if she had just proposed to him. I felt like I was about to faint from shock. We'll be moving to our new home now, Tom said, heading into his room and coming out almost immediately. It appeared that he had already packed his belongings. You'll be alone again, sis, but you're already 40, so isn't it fine to stay single? Lucy taunted with a malicious laugh. Even after they had left, I stood there in a daze for quite some time. What was the time I had spent with Tom all about? Upon reflection, he was a worthless scumbag, but he must have had some charm too. The loss of him brought me intense grief. I cried for a while. It wasn't until I reached out to a friend and talked to my younger brother on the phone that I began to feel a bit calmer. As I calmed down, I was able to think more clearly. As my mind cleared, I felt pure anger rising towards Tom and Lucy. I wanted to pay them back, to make them regret Tom breaking up with me. With that in mind, I decided on a plan for revenge. When I told my brother about it, he agreed to help me. A few days later, the day came for the two families to meet. Apparently, Tom had not yet informed his parents, as they greeted me with, "Thank you for marrying Tom." My parents, too, seemed to be in the dark, greeting the other couple as Sophia's parents. Then, Lucy dropped the bombshell. Actually, I'm the one marrying Tom. Both sets of parents were thrown into confusion, questioning Tom and Lucy, then turning their questioning to me. Tom and I broke up recently. He seems to have taken up with Lucy, I said. While both sets of parents were angry, I calmed them down, saying I was no longer angry and that they should accept the marriage. The meeting ended on an awkward note. And soon after, Tom and Lucy announced they were getting married. They seemed grateful that I had smoothed things over and invited me to the wedding. I attended the wedding not as the bride, but as a guest. As the ceremony approached and the room began to fill, I headed to the room where Tom and Lucy were waiting. When I entered the room, they were happily chatting. The place where Lucy sat should have been mine, but I no longer felt any envy. "Tom, Lucy, congratulations on your wedding," I said as I entered the room. They seemed surprised to see me, but quickly approached with smug smiles. "You really have some nerve, don't you? Any normal person wouldn't come to the meeting or the wedding after being dumped by their boyfriend for their sister." "You're definitely a bit off, aren't you?" Lucy added, grinning. I asked Tom with a gentle smile on my face, "Are you happy now that you've switched to my sister?" Then Tom burst into laughter and said, "Of course. Anyone would agree that Lucy is more attractive than you. Can't you see that? It was absolutely right to ditch an old hag like you." Hearing Tom's words, my sister Lucy giggled as well. "Good for you. I'm glad I'm free from you too. Thanks for breaking up with me." "What?" Tom seemed flustered, not expecting such a response from me. My proud sister, irritated by my composed statement, bit back. "Sophia, you must be envious. You're pretending to be strong, which is lame. You must be unbearably regretting that I took your boyfriend, right?" "Well, anyone who's happy about being cheated on is just a pervert and the minority. I was frustrated too, but when I thought about it calmly, I genuinely felt good about breaking up with such a terrible man." "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "As you said, you've called me an old hag and have been overly dominating. If we were married, that would count as emotional abuse, and I could sue for damages, you know. Imagine how horrible a husband you'd become if you already acted this way while dating." My sister's face turned pale at my words. "Emotional abuse? Tom, is that true?" Tom hurriedly denied it. "Lucy, don't believe her. I'm a man who treats the woman I love with great care. That means I will take very good care of you. Tom. Just when the two seemed to switch into lovey-dovey mode, I played a certain voice recording. Don't get cocky just because you're an old hag and ugly. Younger women are far better than old hags like you. I'm sorry I was wrong. There's only Sophia for me. I'm sorry for being such a lousy boyfriend, but I really want to marry Sophia. Lucy was stunned after hearing the recording. This is Tom's voice. These are some of the things he said while we were dating. He'd throw harsh words at me one day and ask for forgiveness with sweet words the next. This is his pattern. No way. It seemed that Tom hadn't anticipated I'd be prepared with such evidence, and he snapped at me in a state of panic. Hey, stop messing around, you old hag. You're just nasty. I'm glad I didn't marry you, ugly, old, and bad-tempered. What's the point of living? Just as Tom said this, the door of the green room banged open. In walked Tom's parents. Tom, that's enough. Stop embarrassing yourself in front of our relatives. What? What's going on? Your conversation has been broadcast throughout the entire house. Everyone heard. No way! Tom went pale all at once. No. Is this some kind of a joke? My words were... Every attendee heard it all today. I'm disappointed to hear you're such a pathetic man, Tom. I'm going to apologize to the guests right now. Get moving. Tom's father grabbed Tom by the scruff of the neck and he was ushered out of the waiting room. Lucy collapsed onto her knees, looking completely stunned, and hung her head. Both Tom and Lucy had paid a heavy price this time. They found no sympathizers among relatives, colleagues, and friends, all of whom distanced themselves. Tom, who worked in a predominantly female environment, seemed to have been demoted due to the scandal. Lucy, on the other hand, was warned by her friends that they couldn't hang out with someone who would steal her sister's fiancé, that their own boyfriends or partners might be next. As a result, no one invited her out anymore. However, once she found out that Tom was abusive, she seemed to have completely lost interest in him, and they ended up breaking up. But since they had already submitted their marriage license, they became divorced almost instantly after having spent a fortune on the wedding. Lucy was cut off by her parents, brother, and me after the incident and is now reportedly forced to live a frugal life in a cheap apartment working as a freelancer. Now, the reason why our conversation was broadcast throughout the venue at the wedding was because of a favor from my brother. He owns a company that handles sound systems, not just for large-scale events and concerts, but also for most of the weddings in our area. The venue for Lucy and Tom's wedding was handled by my brother's company. So, he explained the situation to the staff beforehand and had them put a small pin microphone on me to broadcast our conversation to the venue. I didn't expect Tom to make such a spectacle of himself, but the plan was a complete success, and I had my revenge. Afterwards, I decided to throw myself into my work. I was promoted and was put in charge of a project where I ended up dating a man from a client company. He is the same age as me and is divorced, but it seems the reason was his wife's infidelity. He is very kind, doesn't change his attitude suddenly or make harsh remarks, and always speaks to me gently. We haven't talked about marriage yet, but I feel like I can be with him for a long time. But I'm not hung up on marriage anymore, so for now, I'm going to fully enjoy the time I spend with him.